Hello, nerds. We got some things to talk about. Not the least of which, just show that off right there. I also got this guy, right here. Check this out. Whee! We got gear. We got nerdy gear. And I'm dropping things and stuff and all that's going on. But that's the preamble. We're going to get into the intro now and talk about the news. Okay, so housekeeping. Obviously, I'm rocking some swag. I do have one or two more items that I'm going to be showing off as soon as they get here. Very specifically, some masks that I've designed. So you can find all of the gear over on generallynerdy.net. There are two different stores. The shirt I'm wearing currently comes from the Teespring store. This one right here behind me also comes from the Teespring store. So go check those out. I'm gonna try and get more content up on those because when I went and grabbed these for this purpose, I realized I don't have as much as I thought I did. So definitely going to be revamping that over the coming weeks. So stay tuned for all of that. I think that's all we have for housekeeping, where I should address the giant elephant in the room, because if you've looked at the time on this episode, then you'll realize it's a little short. We do have some things to get into, but it's really kind of few and far between for this episode for a number of reasons. Again, I'm going to reiterate, I am not doing serious is not the correct word, but it's the word I'm going for, or I'm going to use anyway. I am not doing a serious news show. We are not here to talk about horrible things. We are here to talk about things that we use for escapism, because you can get that news from any other source. That's not what we're here to focus on. We're here to focus on things that are probably going to bring some sort of light into people's lives. So if there's anything directly tied to things that are going on in the world today, there was a bunch of stuff happening in the nerd realm that dealt directly with the things I'm referencing. I'm not going to even say them out loud, just because that's not the kind of news show we're running. So we're not getting into politics, the very little bit of politics we do get into on this show is mostly just based on whether or not I think a thing will survive or I think a thing will work, because that's my personal bias. But we're not getting into that for serious reasons. So that is the reason why this is going to be a short episode. I apologize if you were expecting something more, something more political. That's not what I want to do with this show. That is not the kind of show I'm going to be running. So I'm not taking a stance on this show in any direction. So I apologize if that upsets some, but that is the truth of the matter. So now, let's get into the news. We don't have any music to speak of. Almost every piece of music news had something to do with things we're not going to be talking about, or things that just weren't actually newsworthy, because we're almost to the point where if a band is working on a new album and it's a band that we're going to be covering on the show, we've probably talked about them already. Or there's other things that are kind of really, really on the light end of it. And those are things that are going to get reaction videos and aren't really news in the sense of like it's going to change something for a band or a genre or anything like that. So nothing really for the conversation for this episode, I guess, is the best way to put that as far as music goes. We do have some TV streaming to talk about, and that TV streaming is an update from the Batwoman show. Carolyn Dries, who is one of the producers on the show, has kind of explained why they're going. Really, she's just saying, I didn't want to do, she calls it the soap opera angle, even though this has happened in so many major movies. Granted, I don't know that there has been a primary character that they have had to recast in any of those movies, but there have definitely been secondary characters that are very key characters to certain plot elements in certain series. I'm looking at you, Game of Thrones. There's kind of a laundry list of shows that have done this. So like, it's not unheard of, might be a little rare to this level, but still something that people are aware happens and can accept easily, and they're just not doing it. So Carolyn Dries has said that Greg Berlanti, who is kind of the showrunner for all of these shows, I mean, he's like the Kevin Feige for the CW DC universe, or the Arrowverse, if you want to call it that, or the Berlanti-verse, I think is more appropriate, because he's the guy in charge. So he is also part of this decision-making process, but they are just doubling down, saying that no, we are not going to recast Kate Kane. We are going to write Kate Kane out of the series, and then we are going to see this new character, Ryan Wilder, as the new Batwoman, and we're doing our own thing. Now, there is also a precedent for doing our own thing in a series that is based on a comic book, and that always goes over well. I'm being very sarcastic right now. I don't know if this is going to work out very well at all. I honestly think that we're not going to have Batwoman for, I would imagine, obviously they're getting a season 2, but I think there's a strong possibility that we won't be seeing Batwoman past season 3. I would honestly kind of be surprised to see if we got a whole season 3, or if it just really takes a dive, then we're not even going to get a season 3. The season 2 is going to largely be the determining factor. If they can pull this off, they will set a new precedent. I just don't think they're going to pull it off. But that's the news and some heavy-handed opinion. We're moving on. Next, we are talking movies, and we have one more update as far as production opening up in certain areas, and that certain area now is the state of California. So there are actually a number of things that are happening on June 12th, which is next week, in the state of California, not the least of which is that TV and movie production will be able to go back underway come next week. And also movie theaters are going to be allowed to reopen. It sounds like they're heavily restricted, so don't get it wrong. They're definitely going to be heavily restricted, but somebody finally realized that the majority of their economy is based around these things, and so they need to get these things working again so they can be, the 5th largest economy in the world? If California was a state, then they would be something like that, 5th largest in the world. So yeah, that needs to happen. And then we have one other piece in movies to talk about, and that is Evil Dead Now. So horror fans, you are definitely familiar with the Evil Dead series. There have been quite a few: Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, the Evil Dead Showtime series, and then the Evil Dead reboot in 2013. All of these have had Bruce Campbell, except for the 2013 movie. All of them have had Bruce Campbell in some form playing the main character Ash. Also, except for the 2013 movie, you've had Sam Raimi at the helm making these movies. The new movie, Evil Dead Now, has been revealed. The title has been revealed. The director also has been revealed, Lee Cronin. All have been revealed by Bruce Campbell talking to Empire. And this new this new movie, I guess, which theoretically is the beginning of a new Evil Dead series, is not going to, according to Bruce Campbell, not going to have any ties to any of the previous iterations of the Evil Dead, not even the 2013 movie. So that kind of sucks. Like, I really feel like, not that I really wanted Bruce Campbell back. I mean, obviously I do, because he's the most awesome, right? So I do think that they're selling themselves short by not having Bruce Campbell in this to some degree, but also, if I don't know, it seems like we're getting some good success in popular culture, creating joined worlds, universes even. And so they totally could have capitalized on that by making these tie to one another. It's not 100% necessary in a horror universe. I'm looking at you, The Conjuring, but it is something that definitely attracts an audience, because people like the interconnectivity of things, and they like to see these little Easter eggs that maybe they're the only ones that see. So I don't know. I feel like this is a poor choice, but we won't 100% know until it comes out. So we will be keeping tabs on it throughout the production process. It sounds very, very early right now. Cronin is also going to be writing it as well as directing it. So since he just came on board, there isn't even a script yet. So we don't know locations. We don't know who they need to cast. Any of this, nothing has been set up. So nothing is there to report on. But that's all we're talking about for movies. We would normally be talking about games next, but there's nothing in gaming. Well, again, there's little things, there's small updates, there's these and potential leaks, and we actually have a rumor to discuss in the rumors in the rumor mill section, but no actual hard news to talk about. We're in a weird slump. The summer is super hit and miss every year, always up and down and up and down and up and down. So we're on a down for this episode. We are going to move next to comic books, and we do have some things to talk about in comic books. Comic books, we have DC and Diamond in the news, and the two of them have officially severed ties. More specifically, DC has severed ties with Diamond. They are going to be using 3 different distributors, 2 smaller distributors for their weekly comic books, for the floppies. They're going to be East Coast and West Coast kind of based, and then fill in the gaps between which one. The comic book shops have the option of going through either of them, apparently, but one will be more geared towards East Coast and one of them will be more geared towards West Coast, and really ne'er the twain shall meet. To a large degree, at least. But then they're also going through Penguin Books for their graphic novels specifically. So if it's released as a big, thick trade, then it is going to be released effectively as a book. So that's kind of awesome. Like, I am super appreciative of the fact that they are doing their own distribution. I am super appreciative that they are really sticking it to Diamond, because Diamond has kind of shady business practice, because they're really the only game in town, or so they thought. And now DC is trying to prove them wrong. So on that side of it, absolutely 100% agree that is a great thing for them to be doing. But there's another side to this, and that other side is also opening the door for them to blame the fans when their books don't sell very well. So we know that there are some really questionable choices coming down the pike as far as DC Comics are concerned. And some of them have actually recently started. Very specifically, I'm thinking of Gotham High, where we look at Bruce Wayne as a high school student. And in this series, there are a number of really poor choices as far as effectively recasting a lot of these roles and changing so much about the fundamentals of who these characters are. Now, as these books start to come out, because like I said, they are beginning to release these books, and it's not just this one book. There are a number of other books that they're releasing right now that have similar issues. When they don't do well, there's going to be a number of things that DC can blame the poor sales on and not so that they can avoid blaming the fact that they made poor choices. They're going to be able to blame the fact that the distributors weren't moving the product well enough. They're going to be able to blame fans for being toxic. And they're just going to use this as a way to put their head in the sand, if you will, and completely ignore the fact that these are very poor storytelling choices. These are very poor choices in a social construct as well, and they're doing this for the wrong reasons. But they're not going to choose to admit that. They're going to choose to blame others. And that's on that side of things, I absolutely think this is a terrible decision. But that's just me. And that's, oh no, and then we have one real quick update. Free Comic Book Day didn't really happen this year. Didn't happen at all. Didn't happen at all. So Marvel, and I for whatever reason didn't write in the notes. There was one other comic book publisher. I think it was Boom Studios. I could be wrong, and I don't remember because apparently I took poor notes for this episode. But Marvel, at the very least, is going to be releasing their Free Comic Book Day comics in July. So you can get a hold of your local comic book shop, ask them to order a copy for you, and it will be free. And they're doing it. I think the plan was to release, send a number of copies to comic book shops regardless, and then if comic book shops request more, then they will send them more. So in order to secure whatever Free Comic Book Day book you were looking for, it's best to get a hold of your local shop and tell them, hey, I'm looking to get one of these. Can you make sure you order more? There is a list over on Marvel.com. You kind of have to dig for it, but there is a list of the Free Comic Book Day books that they are offering. So definitely go check that out so that you can let your comic book guy know, hey man, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. So yeah, that is comic books. It's rumor mill time. All right. First up, we have an update on Disney Plus. Well, not really an update, 'cause like I said, it's a rumor, but this rumor is potentially going to be verified in the coming weeks because Disney will or it won't go back into production on Loki, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and WandaVision. So the rumor says that we're going to see Disney go back into active production on these shows, plus potentially more in the month of July. So June 12th be damned, Disney is waiting an extra month before they go back into production, which, I mean, you can't really blame them for. That's all we have on that one. Next, we're talking about a real quick one, and this one I feel like I'm going to shoot down immediately after I report on it. There is a rumor going around that Disney is considering a Rey solo movie. Not Rey Solo, but a solo Rey movie. So Daisy Ridley coming back as Rey for a solo movie. And there's a few sources that are saying this might be a thing, and I am here to say I don't think so. I don't think this rumor has any legs whatsoever. I honestly believe, because we've heard Daisy Ridley and John Boyega and basically all of the new cast of the Star Wars sequel trilogy say that now I think I'm done. I'm hanging up the lightsaber, as it were. Money does talk, and Disney kind of prints the stuff. So there is a sliver of a chance that this one's true, but I honestly, and I'm going to start on these ones because in the last video, somebody pointed out, well, that's probably not going to happen because X, Y, and Z about Star Trek. And I know those things, but I just haven't been apparently mentioning them as I'm talking about these rumors. So we're going to start talking about them a little bit more heavily as far as whether or not I think the rumors legit or has some sort of legs to stand on. This one, I don't think it has anything. So that's what we have on that one. Next, we're talking about another Disney live action remake. And apparently Disney is really looking for something to do right now because the rumor says that they're looking at making The Black Cauldron into a live action show. If you don't remember The Black Cauldron, it's because it's garbage. And Disney for a long time didn't even acknowledge that it existed. The movie was originally released in 1986 and didn't see a home release. It was released in theaters in 86. Didn't see a home video release until 1998. 12 years it took for them to acknowledge, oh yeah, by the way, we did a thing and it didn't do so well in theaters, but here we're going to try and maximize. Yeah, I don't, this is another one. I really don't see, yes, I understand that times are rough and coronavirus is a thing and so everything is shutting down and they're looking for ways to turn a buck. I just don't think they're that desperate yet. But whoever's circulating this rumor definitely does think they're that desperate. So I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. Next, we are talking about Godzilla versus Kong. New rumor is circulating. Actually, a couple of rumors are circulating that we are going to be seeing King Ghidorah return in the Godzilla versus Kong movie. Not just King Ghidorah, but also Mecha King Ghidorah, or very specifically Mecha King Ghidorah, because according to the rumor, that's how Ghidorah comes back, is they rebuild parts of him and then they defeat Ghidorah and they use parts of Mecha King Ghidorah to create a Mecha Godzilla, or maybe it was the other way around. This one has legs. This definitely, they are trying to do a lot of fan service with these movies. So bringing in the mecha elements, because those are fairly deep cuts. They're not the deepest cuts, but they're definitely, like, they're not the most well-known, but the hardcore fans are all about this kind of stuff. So yeah, I think this one definitely has legs. I don't know to what extent we're going to be seeing Mecha King Ghidorah and Mecha Godzilla. I do feel like there will be an element of Mecha Godzilla at the very least, though. So this one, I think, holds up at least a little bit. Next, we were talking about the Batman, and we have this one. There's actually a couple of rumors that we're going to be talking about the Batman, but the one of the rumors, there's a whole lot of muddy water that comes with it. So the rumor is that for the sequel of this first Matt Reeves The Batman movie, we are going to see Bane as the primary antagonist, which will be really nice because the closest we got to that was The Dark Knight Rises, and really Talia al Ghul was the actual primary antagonist, and she was kind of the shadow puppeteer behind Bane. She was the one pulling Bane's strings. And then the only other time we've seen Bane in live action in movies was under the control of Poison Ivy, and that was laughable. So it will be nice, if this rumor is true, to see that. But the rumor goes on to say that Warner Brothers is still of that mindset where if you have this character in this spot, you cannot have this character, live action at least, cannot have this character anywhere else. So that flies in the face of what we heard last episode, or last time we were talking about Bane anyway, saying that Bane is going to likely be the next Joker, effectively going to be the next one-off dark movie or black label movie, as I've been calling them. So the two cannot exist together. They are definitely mutually exclusive. I tend to want to believe more of the former and less of the latter. Former being that Bane is going to get his black label, a one-off movie, and is not going to be the antagonist of the sequel for the Batman. Though I honestly would want both of them to happen because Bane is such an interesting character to really dive into the psyche of. I want them both to happen. I just don't think they will. Because again, Warner Brothers says if you have this character here, it can't be over here as well. They tested the water a little tiny bit because there was very little overlap with Titans and the Justice League, like very little. It was they missed each other by, I think, just under a year. So maybe kind of sort of, I don't know. I wish Warner Brothers would not be that silly because they think that we won't understand as fans. We won't understand, well, if that's Bane, then why is Bane over here in this series? And why is Bane over there in that movie all by himself? It just doesn't make sense, but it's still, I believe that portion of the rumor at the very least, and I'm rambling. So that's what we have on that specific part, and then there's also a rumor that this version of the Matt Reeves Batman movie will actually have the Joker in it. It was unclear in this rumor whether or not the Joker was going to be the primary antagonist or if it was going to be a cameo. The one thing that was for certain, though, is it's going to be another new iteration of the Joker, if you believe the rumor. That is all of the Batman. I know I talked a long time about the Batman, but that is all we've got there. Now we're staying with Warner Brothers. We're staying with the DC Extended Universe. We're talking about The Flash. New rumor is now floating around that Joe Manganiello is going to be coming back as Deathstroke in The Flash. With this being potentially a Flashpoint movie, even if they've decided to recast the main character, I think that bringing Manganiello back as Deathstroke is a great idea. I think he did not get enough time in that suit to really show us if it was a good choice or a bad choice. I'm down to see if it's a good choice or a bad choice. But that's a quickie rumor. Next, we're talking about video games, baby. And this is actually the final rumor for the episode. We have a Halo rumor. So apparently 343 Industries has been reported to be working on multiple games in the Halo universe. There are different sources reporting on this rumor saying that this might be their final, or they're finally attempting to jump into the Battle Royale mode of things. So I love Halo. I think basically whatever they do, I don't know, Halo 5, not so much, but the rest of the franchise, absolutely golden. So if they can capitalize on that feeling, it doesn't really matter what they're trying to do. It's going to be something I have to get. So yeah, that is the rumor mill. And that is also the end of the episode. What did I miss? What should we talk about in the next one? Let me know in the comments down below. If, though, you want to go deeper into the conversation, there's a website, generallynerdy.net. There's also a Patreon, patreon.com/generallynerdy. On the website, you can get all the free stuff. On the Patreon, you get all the pay stuff. And there's a fair amount of pay stuff. So go check that out. Patreon.com/generallynerdy once again. Also on the website, links to the stores so you can get your nerdy swag. Get all of the things, even on the back. Look, I can front and back print. Oh, isn't it so awesome? Yeah, I'm pretty proud of the shirts. So definitely go check them out. Go get yours. Rock it at the next con you go to, because that's usually where I wear my nerdy shirts. Yeah, so again, thank you guys very, very much for joining me. If you are falling behind in your nerd news and you want to catch up, then you can click or tap one of the two boxes below my face to do that. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, do all of the things and all of the stuff, and we're going to end it there. Thank you, nerds, very much once again for joining me. Before we head out, though, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.